The universe was vast, teeming with life, and bound by an unspoken law. Strength dictated respect. For centuries, the Galactic Federation had stood as a beacon of unity, a consortium of hundreds of species working toward collective prosperity. Membership required a display of value, be it technological advancements, cultural significance, or military prowess. When humanity's presence was first noted on the galactic stage, it caused barely a ripple. Earth was unremarkable, a small blue planet circling an ordinary star on the fringes of an unimportant sector. Yet the Federation prided itself on inclusivity, and even seemingly insignificant civilizations deserved an invitation to participate. When Earth's signal, a mix of broadcasts, binary-coded greetings, and music was intercepted by the Zorith explorers, it was deemed quaint but intriguing. The Zorith, a race of bioengineered scholars, made first contact with Earth in 2278. Their sleek, iridescent ships appeared in orbit, casting shimmering rainbows across Earth's skies. Humanity, unified under the global accord by then, greeted the visitors with a mixture of awe and caution. A delegation was assembled, composed of Earth's best scientists, diplomats, and leaders, to meet the Zorith on neutral ground, the newly constructed International Space Habitat. The first encounter was surprisingly cordial. The Zorith, with their serene and academic demeanor, praised humanity's creativity and resilience, citing their rapid adaptation to technological and environmental challenges. Humanity's accomplishments, though dwarfed by the standards of other galactic civilizations, had a unique flair. The Zorith found the chaotic yet ingenious solutions humans devised to be oddly admirable, albeit inefficient. But beneath the pleasantries, an unspoken hierarchy loomed. The Zorith were clearly assessing Earth's potential value to the Federation, and humanity's candidacy rested precariously on the balance of their observations. After several months of cultural exchange, Earth received a formal invitation to present itself before the Galactic Federation Council. The event was to take place on Orion Prime, the heart of galactic governance. It was both a great honor and a daunting challenge. Earth's delegation worked tirelessly to prepare. They rehearsed speeches, studied galactic etiquette, and constructed an impressive portfolio of humanity's achievements. Yet, among themselves, they acknowledged the daunting reality: humanity had nothing that would significantly elevate the Federation. They lacked the advanced nanotechnology of the Clerians, the psychic abilities of the V'Trek, or the military might of the Drak Tharn. They were a jack-of-all-trades civilization in a galaxy where specialization reigned supreme. The delegation arrived on Orion Prime in a modest human vessel, dwarfed by the sleek and massive ships that filled the docking bays. The planet itself was a marvel, a sprawling city of spires and domes stretched across a continent-sized space station. The architecture glimmered in hues of gold and silver, and the atmosphere buzzed with the hum of advanced energy fields. The human delegation, though outwardly composed, could not hide their astonishment as they were escorted through the Federation Hall. Hundreds of species filled the grand chamber, each more exotic than the last. Bioluminescent beings floated gracefully alongside towering insectoids, and crystalline lifeforms glimmered under the council's lights. The air was thick with the scent of alien flora, mingling with the faint hum of countless languages being translated by omnipresent devices. When the human delegation took their place at the speaker's podium, the room fell into a hushed silence. The lead diplomat, Dr. Alara Voss, stepped forward. Her voice was steady, her posture confident, but her eyes betrayed the weight of the moment. She began by expressing gratitude for the opportunity, recounting humanity's journey from its humble beginnings to the cusp of interstellar presence. She spoke of resilience, of how humanity had faced extinction from wars, pandemics, and environmental collapse, yet emerged stronger each time. She highlighted humanity's art, music, and literature, emphasizing their unique ability to express emotions and ideas in ways that resonated across cultures. But as Dr. Voss spoke, the room's energy shifted. Whispers rippled through the council as some delegates exchanged skeptical glances. To many in the room, humanity's story was no different from countless others. Species had risen from adversity before many had achieved far greater feats in shorter spans of time. When she concluded her speech with humanity's core philosophy, "We strive for peace, but we are prepared for challenges," there was polite applause. but it was clear that her words had failed to inspire the room. The council president, a towering reptilian figure from the Croxar race, leaned forward and addressed the humans directly. His voice was low and rumbling, his words translated into the human delegation's earpieces. Your history is admirable, and your cultural contributions are unique. But the Federation requires strength. In a galaxy as perilous as ours, survival hinges not on words but on action. Tell us, humans, what makes you indispensable to our alliance? Dr. Voss hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. She had anticipated this question, but the answer she had prepared suddenly felt inadequate. Before she could respond, another voice interrupted, calm but firm. We do not seek to prove our strength through force or fear. The room turned toward the source of the voice. It was Captain Idris Kane, the leader of the human military escort. His uniform was stark against the backdrop of flowing robes and ornate garments worn by other species. He stepped forward, his posture unyielding. Humans value diplomacy and collaboration above all else. We believe strength lies not in conquest but in unity. However, his voice dropped slightly, his gaze sweeping the room. If the need arises, we do not falter. We have learned the cost of underestimating threats, and we are prepared to defend ourselves. The council president tilted his head, intrigued but unconvinced. And what exactly do you mean by that, Captain Kane? Kane's lips curled into a faint smile. Simply this: please don't make us mad. A ripple of laughter echoed through the chamber. Many delegates dismissed his statement as bravado, a desperate attempt to mask humanity's weaknesses. The council president leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. We shall see, Captain Kane. We shall see. As the humans exited the chamber, the weight of the encounter bore heavily on them. They had not been rejected outright, but they had not earned the council's respect either. Yet among themselves they knew the truth. Humanity's true strength remained hidden in unspoken power that only time would reveal. Kane's words, though seemingly trivial, carried a foreboding undertone that none in the chamber could fully grasp. For humanity had learned through its turbulent history that patience was their greatest weapon, and those who tested their resolve often regretted it too late. The galaxy was vast, its alliances fragile, and its peace a delicate illusion. While the Galactic Federation maintained a veneer of unity, the undercurrents of rivalry and distrust were ever present. Beneath the polished facade of diplomacy lay a simmering tension, a precarious balance of power kept in check only by fear of mutual destruction. For centuries, the Drak Tharn had been the embodiment of that fear, a militaristic race renowned for their ruthless efficiency and insatiable thirst for dominance. Their fleets were legendary, their conquest brutal, and their disdain for diplomacy absolute. To the Drak Tharn, words were a sign of weakness, and treaties were mere tools to bide time before inevitable subjugation. Humanity's first encounter with the Drak Tharn began, ironically, with an act of supposed goodwill. The Drak Tharn emissaries arrived in Earth's orbit aboard a colossal battleship, a stark contrast to the elegant vessels of the Zorith or the ornate ships of the Croxar. Their vessel exuded menace, its jagged hull lined with weaponry that seemed almost eager for conflict. The emissaries, hulking figures clad in armor that shimmered like molten obsidian, descended onto Earth's surface with an air of disdain. They spoke little, their guttural language translated by devices that added an unsettling mechanical edge to their words. The purpose of their visit was ostensibly to welcome humanity to the interstellar community, but their true intent became apparent within moments. The Drak Tharn offered an alliance not as equals but as subordinates. They praised humanity's resilience and adaptability but framed it as a potential asset to their empire. You are a hardy species, their leader growled, his voice a low rumble that seemed to shake the air itself. But your survival depends on strength. Join us and we shall ensure your protection. Dr. Alara Voss, representing Earth's delegation, responded with measured diplomacy. We appreciate your offer, she began, choosing her words carefully, but humanity values its independence. We believe that mutual respect and collaboration are the foundations of any meaningful alliance. The Drak Tharn leader's expression darkened, his glowing eyes narrowing. Respect is earned through power, not words, Remember this, humans the weak do not survive. With that, the Drak Tharn departed, their warning hanging heavy in the air. Though the encounter ended without immediate incident, it left a lingering unease. The Drak Tharn were not known for empty threats, and their interest in Earth was unlikely to wane. Humanity's leaders convened in emergency sessions, debating their next steps. Should they seek to strengthen alliances with other Federation members, or should they prepare for war? The answers were unclear, and the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily upon them. The Drak Tharn's true intentions became evident only weeks later. Without warning, their fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, a swarm of dark, predatory ships that blotted out the stars. They bypassed the diplomatic protocols of the Galactic Federation, ignoring protests and demands for explanation. Instead, they issued a simple ultimatum: surrender, or face annihilation. The attack began with surgical precision. The Drak Tharn targeted humanity's fledgling colonies on Luna and Mars, bombarding them with energy weapons that reduced entire settlements to ash. The devastation was swift and merciless. The colonists, many of whom were civilians, had no means of defense against the onslaught. Earth's military, though valiant, was hopelessly outmatched. Their ships, built for exploration and self-defense, were no match for the Drak Tharn's war machines. The Galactic Federation responded with condemnation but little else. The Council convened emergency meetings, debating whether to intervene or allow humanity to fend for itself. Some members argued that defending Earth would risk provoking the Drak Tharn further, while others questioned whether humanity was worth saving. The prevailing sentiment was one of cautious detachment. Humanity, after all, was new to the galactic stage, and its loss would be a tragedy but not a strategic one. On Earth, the mood was a volatile mix of fear and defiance. The Global Accord issued broadcasts urging unity and resilience, while military leaders scrambled to devise a strategy against an overwhelmingly superior foe. Amid the chaos, Captain Idris Kane emerged as a voice of calm determination. He addressed the world in a televised message, his tone resolute. "We may be outnumbered and outgunned," he said, "but we are not outmatched. Humanity's greatest strength has always been its ability to adapt, to endure, and to rise above. We will not surrender. We will stand." Behind closed doors, however, Earth's leaders faced a grim reality. The Drak Tharn's demands were clear: unconditional surrender and the complete subjugation of humanity. Resistance seemed futile, and the costs of defiance were mounting. Yet there was a glimmer of hope, an experimental weapon known only to a select few within the military and scientific community. The project, codenamed Aegis, was a culmination of years of secret research into gravitational manipulation. It was untested, its consequences unpredictable, but it represented humanity's only chance of turning the tide. As the Drak Tharn fleet advanced toward Earth, humanity issued one final plea for peace. "Please," Dr. Voss said in a transmission to the Drak Tharn commanders, her voice trembling but firm, "don't make us mad. Withdraw your forces, and we can find a path forward." The Drak Tharn's response was swift and scornful. "Your defiance is amusing," their leader snarled. "But your words are meaningless. Prepare for your extinction." In that moment, the die was cast. Humanity's plea for peace had been dismissed, and the path of diplomacy was no longer an option. The Drak Tharn's arrogance had sealed their fate, though they did not yet realize it. As their fleet closed in on Earth, humanity activated Aegis for the first time. The weapon unleashed a gravitational anomaly of unprecedented scale, creating a localized black hole that swallowed the Drak Tharn's vanguard in an instant. The remaining ships, caught in the gravitational pull, scrambled to retreat, but the damage was done. The Drak Tharn's unstoppable advance had been shattered. The victory was both a triumph and a revelation. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity, once deemed insignificant, demonstrated a capability that rivaled the greatest powers of the Federation. Yet the cost of the weapon's use was staggering. The gravitational anomaly destabilized the surrounding space, creating a rift that would take years to repair. Millions of lives were lost in the colonies, and Earth's resources were stretched to their limits. But the message was clear: humanity would not bow. The phrase, "please don't make us mad," now carried a weight that resonated across the galaxy. The Drak Tharn, humiliated and enraged, vowed revenge, setting the stage for an escalating conflict that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The aftermath of the Drak Tharn's defeat was a moment of paradoxical triumph and despair for humanity. The black hole created by Aegis had wiped out the immediate threat, but the cost was enormous. Lunar and Martian colonies lay in ruins, their inhabitants reduced to names on lists of the dead. The space near Earth was littered with debris from destroyed ships, a graveyard in orbit glinting faintly as a silent reminder of the battle. For Earth it was a bittersweet victory, but for the galaxy it was a shockwave that rippled far beyond the edges of the solar system. The Galactic Federation was shaken to its core. News of humanity's deployment of a gravitational weapon spread like wildfire, filling the halls of Orion Prime with whispered debates and tense deliberations. Such a weapon was not only unprecedented but also considered impossible by most Federation species. The Clerians, whose mastery of advanced physics had long been considered unmatched, found themselves humbled by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The VA Trek, known for their psychic abilities, sensed a new undercurrent of resolve in humanity, one they had failed to predict. Even the Kroxar, whose council president had questioned humanity's worth, now regarded them with cautious respect. But nowhere was the reaction more profound than among the Drak Tharn. The humiliation of their defeat was an insult they could not tolerate. For centuries they had ruled through fear, their empire expanding relentlessly as species capitulated to their might. That a fledgling species barely capable of interstellar travel had not only resisted but annihilated one of their most formidable fleets was a blow to their pride that demanded retribution. The Drak Tharn began to mobilize their forces, calling upon their allies and vassals to prepare for an all-out war against humanity. On Earth, the days following the battle were consumed by a mixture of mourning, rebuilding, and preparation. The Global Accord declared a state of planetary emergency, diverting every available resource toward fortifying Earth's defenses. Factories churned out weapons and ships at an unprecedented pace, while scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to refine Aegis and develop additional technologies that could level the playing field. Yet, amidst the frenzy of activity, a quiet unease settled over humanity's leaders. They knew that the Drak Tharn's retaliation would be swift and devastating. The first victory had been hard won, but it was only the beginning. Captain Idris Kane, who had become a symbol of humanity's resolve, was at the forefront of these efforts. Despite his stoic demeanor, he carried the weight of the battle's consequences on his shoulders. He spent sleepless nights in the war room, poring over strategies and scenarios with military advisors. His voice, steady and authoritative, inspired those around him, but beneath the surface he wrestled with the knowledge that their survival hinged on a gamble that humanity's ingenuity and resilience would once again triumph against impossible odds. As preparations continued, humanity received an unexpected visitor. A Zorith ambassador arrived on Earth, their sleek ship landing discreetly on the outskirts of the Global Accord's headquarters. The Zorith, who had initiated first contact with humanity years ago, had watched the recent events with both fascination and concern. Their ambassador, a soft-spoken figure named Velith, requested an audience with Earth's leaders. Velith's presence was a stark contrast to the militaristic aura of the Drak Tharn. Their translucent skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light, and their voice carried a melodic cadence. In the grand conference room of the Global Accord, Velith addressed the gathered leaders. "Humans," they began, their voice calm but tinged with urgency, "you have achieved what many believe to be impossible. You have shown strength in the face of overwhelming adversity. But strength alone will not ensure your survival." Dr. Alara Voss, seated at the head of the table, leaned forward. "What do you suggest, Ambassador? We've seen what the Drak Tharn are capable of, and we know they won't stop until we're destroyed." Velith's gaze swept the room, their luminous eyes reflecting the faces of those present. The Drak Tharn are relentless, yes, but their strength lies in their predictability. They rely on brute force and fear to subjugate others. You, humans, possess something they do not: adaptability. It is your greatest weapon. Kane, seated beside Dr. Voss, spoke up. "We've proven we can fight back, but the Drak Tharn will return with greater numbers and more firepower. Adaptability alone won't win a war. Baelith inclined their head. Which is why you must not stand alone. The Galactic Federation is hesitant to intervene directly, but there are those among us who believe in your cause. We can offer assistance, technology, intelligence, and allies. But you must prove that you are not merely a force of destruction. Show the galaxy that humanity is a beacon of hope, not a harbinger of chaos. The meeting ended with a cautious agreement. The Zorith would act as intermediaries, facilitating covert support from sympathetic Federation members. Humanity, in turn, would focus on fortifying its defenses and building alliances. It was a precarious alliance, built on mutual need rather than trust, but it was a glimmer of hope in an otherwise dire situation. Meanwhile, the Drak Tharn were preparing their counterstrike. Their high command, humiliated by the loss of their fleet, vowed to bring Earth to its knees. They began assembling an armada unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, a vast fleet of ships bristling with weapons and manned by their most elite warriors. The Drak Tharn saw the destruction of Earth as more than a military objective. It was a matter of pride, a statement to the galaxy that their dominance could not be challenged. As the Drak Tharn's fleet moved into position, humanity's preparations reached a fever pitch. Engineers completed the construction of new orbital defense platforms, equipped with experimental energy shields designed to withstand the Drak Tharn's weapons. Scientists worked tirelessly to refine Aegis, increasing its precision and reducing the collateral damage caused by its activation. Military leaders coordinated a network of resistance cells across the solar system, preparing for the possibility of ground invasions. The tension was palpable as the day of reckoning approached. Humanity had done everything in its power to prepare, but the outcome of the impending battle was far from certain. The phrase, "Please don't make us mad," once a simple plea, had become a rallying cry, uniting a species on the brink of annihilation. For humanity, the stakes were clear: survival or extinction. And as the Drak Tharn's fleet emerged from hyperspace, their ships blotting out the stars, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity, once dismissed as insignificant, now stood at the center of a conflict that would reshape the balance of power in the universe. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The stars over Earth disappeared, swallowed by the massive shadow of the Drak Tharn armada. Their fleet spanned the void in an endless wave, warships of dark, jagged metal bristling with weaponry. From Earth's surface, the armada looked like a second nightfall, blocking out the light of the sun in a grim omen of the chaos to come. The Drak Tharn had arrived, their wrath unrelenting, their intent clear. The galaxy watched with bated breath, countless species tuning into live broadcasts relayed from the edges of the solar system. For the Galactic Federation, it was a test not just of humanity, but of their own resolve to uphold the fragile peace they claimed to represent. On Earth, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Cities braced for impact, sirens blaring through the air as evacuation orders were issued. Civilians were directed to underground shelters, hastily reinforced against orbital bombardments. The planet's skies were a swarm of activity, with military ships rising to meet the impending assault and defense platforms powering up their experimental shields. Humanity's leaders stood in the Global Accord's war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing every detail of the incoming fleet. The room buzzed with reports, commands, and the hum of overlapping conversations. At the center of it all stood Captain Idris Kane, his presence commanding the attention of everyone present. Kane's voice cut through the chaos, calm yet firm. "We know what's coming. The Drak Tharn think they've already won, that this is a show of force to crush our spirit. What they don't realize is that we've been preparing for this day. Every defense we've built, every strategy we've devised, it all leads here." Dr. Alara Voss, standing beside him, nodded. "And if we fall, the galaxy will see what the Drak Tharn are truly capable of. This isn't just humanity's fight. It's a warning to everyone who values freedom." The words were meant to inspire, but the weight of the moment pressed heavily on everyone in the room. They knew the odds were stacked against them. The Drak Tharn fleet numbered in the thousands, their ships equipped with technology far beyond humanity's capabilities. Earth's defenses, though advanced by their standards, were untested against such overwhelming force. The Aegis weapon had been refined, but its use carried enormous risks. A single miscalculation could cause catastrophic damage not just to the enemy, but to Earth itself. As the Drak Tharn ships entered firing range, the battle began. The first salvo was unleashed in a blinding cascade of energy beams and plasma bolts, aimed directly at Earth's orbital platforms. The experimental shields held, glowing brightly as they absorbed the onslaught, but cracks began to form under the relentless pressure. Human ships, smaller and more agile, darted between the larger vessels, launching coordinated attacks on the edges of the armada. Explosions lit up the darkness, the vacuum of space momentarily filled with fire and debris. Despite their best efforts, the Drak Tharn's superior numbers quickly overwhelmed the outer defenses. One by one, the orbital platforms were destroyed, their wreckage scattering across the upper atmosphere. Earth's fleet fought valiantly, but for every Drak Tharn ship they managed to take down, 3 more seemed to appear. The sheer scale of the armada was staggering, a tide of destruction that seemed unstoppable. In the war room, the mood grew increasingly grim. Reports of losses came in rapid succession, each one a blow to the already fragile morale. Kane stood at the center of it all, his expression unreadable as he analyzed the battlefield. He knew they couldn't hold the line much longer. The time had come to deploy the Aegis weapon. Turning to the chief engineer, Kane gave the order. Activate Aegis. Target their central formation. The engineer hesitated for a moment, her fingers hovering over the controls. Captain, if we miscalculate. We don't have a choice, Kane interrupted. Do it. The war room fell silent as the command was executed. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, the Aegis device roared to life. Its power core, a fusion of gravitational manipulation and quantum technology, began to hum with a low, resonant frequency. On the battlefield, a ripple of energy spread outward from Earth, distorting the fabric of space-time itself. The Drak Tharn fleet paused, their ships faltering as sensors scrambled to comprehend the anomaly. Then, in an instant, the ripple condensed into a singularity. A massive gravitational well formed at the heart of the Drak Tharn armada, pulling ships into its inescapable grasp. The vacuum of space was filled with a chaotic sight of vessels twisting and crumpling as they were drawn into the singularity's maw. The battlefield was a cacophony of destruction, the Drak Tharn's once imposing fleet reduced to chaos. But the Aegis weapon was far from perfect. The gravitational well began to destabilize, its effects spreading unpredictably. Nearby human ships were caught in its pull, their pilots struggling desperately to escape. The energy output began to overload Earth's defense systems, threatening to collapse the planet's protective shields. Kane watched the chaos unfold, his jaw clenched as he issued orders to mitigate the fallout. Pull back the fleet. Divert all power to stabilizing the anomaly, he shouted, his voice cutting through the rising panic in the room. The next few minutes felt like an eternity. Engineers worked frantically to contain the singularity, rerouting energy and recalibrating the Aegis system. On the battlefield, the remaining Drak Tharn ships attempted a desperate retreat, their once unyielding formation shattered. Finally, with a final surge of power, the singularity collapsed, leaving behind a field of wreckage and silence. The battle was over, but the cost was staggering. Earth's fleet was decimated, its defenses left in ruins. The surface of the planet bore the scars of the conflict, with debris raining down from orbit and fires spreading in the aftermath of the bombardments. The Global Accord declared a state of mourning, honoring the countless lives lost in the defense of the planet. Yet amidst the devastation, there was a flicker of hope. Humanity had survived. In the days that followed, the galaxy's reaction was swift and profound. The Drak Tharn, once thought invincible, had been dealt a crippling blow. Their empire, fractured by the loss of their fleet, faced rebellions from vassal species emboldened by humanity's defiance. The Galactic Federation, which had hesitated to act, now found itself forced to reevaluate its stance. Humanity, once seen as an insignificant newcomer, had proven itself capable of standing against the galaxy's greatest threat. For Captain Kane and the leaders of the Global Accord, the victory was bittersweet. They had achieved the impossible, but at a tremendous cost. Earth's recovery would take years, perhaps decades, and the scars of the battle would linger for generations. Yet, in their darkest hour, humanity had shown the galaxy the true extent of its potential, a potential that no longer could be ignored. The silence after the battle was deafening. The once crowded skies above Earth were empty, save for the wreckage of destroyed ships slowly falling into the planet's gravity well. The Drak-Tharn armada had been shattered, their retreating remnants vanishing into the depths of space. But the cost of victory was painfully clear. Earth's orbital defenses were in ruins, its fleet decimated, and its surface bore the heavy scars of conflict. Fires raged across damaged cities, and the cries of the injured echoed through the rubble of collapsed buildings. Humanity had survived, but the price of its defiance was written in blood and ash. In the aftermath, Captain Idris Kane stood on the observation deck of the Global Accords Command Center, gazing at the remnants of the battle above. His reflection stared back at him from the reinforced glass, the lines of exhaustion etched deeply into his face. He had done his duty, but the weight of the decisions he had made hung heavily on his shoulders. Around him, the command center buzzed with activity as engineers, medics, and soldiers coordinated rescue efforts and repair operations. The atmosphere was a mix of relief and somber determination. The war had been won, but the struggle was far from over. Dr. Ilara Voss approached Kane, her own face pale and drawn. "The preliminary reports are in," she said softly. "Casualties are in the millions. Most of our orbital platforms are beyond repair, and the Aegis device, well, let's just say it won't be operational again anytime soon." Kane nodded, his jaw tightening. "We knew the cost going in," he replied. "The question is, will the galaxy see it the same way?" Voss gave a bitter laugh. "They're already talking. The Federation Council is convening an emergency session to discuss the human problem. Some of them are terrified of what we've done. Others, well, let's just say they're reevaluating their stance on humanity." Kane turned back to the window, his gaze distant. "Good. Let them talk. Let them decide whether they want us as allies or enemies. Either way, they won't make the mistake of underestimating us again." The emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council was held on Orion Prime, the heart of interstellar governance. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the Grand Chamber, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, fear, and respect. Humanity's delegation, led by Dr. Voss and Kane, entered the chamber with heads held high, their presence a stark reminder of the events that had unfolded. The council president, a towering figure from the Croxar race, began the session with a measured tone. "Humans," he said, his deep voice resonating through the chamber, "your actions have not gone unnoticed. You have demonstrated strength, resilience, and ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. But you have also unleashed a weapon that has left the galaxy deeply unsettled. The use of such power raises questions about your intentions and your place among us." Voss stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "President Siren, esteemed members of the council, we did not seek this war. The Drak-Tharn forced our hand, and we did what we had to in order to survive. The Aegis weapon was a last resort, a desperate measure to protect our people. But make no mistake, we value peace above all else. We would rather build bridges than destroy them." A murmur spread through the chamber, some delegates nodding in agreement while others whispered their doubts. The VA Trek representative, a slender, silver-skinned being with piercing eyes, spoke next. "Humans have shown remarkable adaptability and creativity. These traits are rare and valuable in the galaxy. But with great power comes great responsibility. Can we trust humanity to wield its newfound strength wisely?" Kane stepped forward, his voice steady and resolute. "Trust is earned, not given. We understand that. But let me be clear, humanity has no desire to dominate or destroy. We fight only when we are left with no other choice. All we ask is the same respect and consideration you would extend to any other member of this council." The room fell silent as the council deliberated. Hours turned into days as debates raged behind closed doors. Meanwhile, humanity's delegation waited, their future hanging in the balance. News of the council's deliberations spread across the galaxy, sparking discussions and protests on countless worlds. Some species rallied in support of humanity, inspired by their courage and ingenuity. Others called for their isolation, fearing the potential threat they represented. When the council finally reconvened, the chamber was filled with an air of anticipation. President Shuren addressed the room, his expression unreadable. After careful deliberation, the council has reached a decision. Humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Federation, with all the rights and responsibilities therein. However, we strongly recommend the establishment of oversight committees to ensure that weapons such as the Aegis device are used only under the strictest of circumstances. The decision was met with a mix of applause and dissent. For humanity, it was a hard-won victory, a recognition of their place in the galaxy. But it was also a reminder of the scrutiny they would face moving forward. The path ahead would not be easy, but it was a path they were prepared to walk. Back on Earth, the news was met with celebrations tempered by the reality of the rebuilding effort. Cities began to rise from the rubble, and humanity's leaders worked tirelessly to restore a sense of normalcy. The phrase, "Please don't make us mad," once a plea for peace, had become a rallying cry for resilience and determination. For Kane and Voss, the end of the war marked the beginning of a new chapter. Humanity was no longer a fledgling species on the outskirts of the galaxy. They were now a recognized power, a force to be reckoned with. But with that recognition came a heavy burden, the responsibility to uphold the values they had fought so hard to defend. As Kane stood on the observation deck once more, watching the stars beyond Earth's atmosphere, he felt a quiet sense of resolve. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, filled with dangers and opportunities alike. Humanity's journey was just beginning, and the challenges ahead would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. But one thing was certain: they would face those challenges together, united in their pursuit of a brighter future. And if the galaxy ever dared to threaten that future again, they would remember the lesson humanity had taught them. Please don't make us mad.